Have you ever wondered whether your thoughts really reach other people? I don't mean through body language, texts, or social media, but silently, through your imagination, through that invisible field that connects us all. What if every thought you held about someone, your friend, your crush, your ex, was actually heard by them, not consciously, but energetically? And what if how they behave toward you wasn't as random as it seems, but a reflection of the very image you hold of them inside your own mind? That's what Neville Goddard hinted at in one of his strangest, most mind-bending ideas, the law of thought transmission. It's been called confusing, weird, even contradictory. But beneath all the old-fashioned language and mystery lies one of the most powerful keys to manifestation. Every person you meet is molded in the image of the assumptions you hold about them. So let's break it down. When Neville says consciousness is the only reality, he's not being poetic. He literally means that what you think and feel as true inside shapes the outer world. But in this chapter, he takes it a step further. He says, a friend 1,000 miles away is rooted in your consciousness. That means distance doesn't exist when it comes to thought. You could be in Melbourne, and someone in New York still feels you in ways they can't explain. You've probably experienced this. Ever had someone call or text you just as you were thinking about them? You probably laughed it off. We're telepathic! But maybe that wasn't a coincidence. Maybe your inner picture of them actually nudged their mind. Now, Neville's twist, he suggests that when you think of someone as already being how you wish them to be, and believe that inner image to be real, you plant a seed in their subconscious. Their outer actions begin to align with your inner assumption. You imagine them being kind, and suddenly they soften. You imagine them succeeding, and they thrive. That's thought transmission in action. But then Neville adds the weird part. He says that your idea of someone only takes effect if it's acceptable to them, if it's something they could imagine for themselves, consciously or subconsciously. If not, the energy of that thought comes back to you instead. And that's where everyone, including seasoned Neville readers, goes, wait, what? Because if imagination creates reality, and if you're God of your inner world, then how can someone else's subconscious reject your belief? Isn't all consciousness one? This is where most of us get tangled up trying to make sense of it logically. But think of it less as a rule and more as feedback, a cosmic safety mechanism. Imagine a giant energetic mirror that reflects whatever you project. When the image you hold of another person comes from love, even if disguised as guidance, hope, or faith, it finds resonance in them. It multiplies. But when it comes from control, fear, or resentment, it bounces back and shows up as a reflection in your own world. Not as punishment, but as proof that nothing can be created without consent, vibrationally. Neville's phrase, provided the idea is acceptable, is really about alignment. You can't impose an inner picture that's out of sync with the natural vibration of love. That's why resentment feels heavy. It's a sign the thought isn't in harmony. Think of it like tuning forks. If you strike one fork, the other fork of the same pitch begins to vibrate, even across the room. That's resonance. That's transmission. But if the forks are tuned differently, no matter how hard you strike one, the other stays still. So when Neville says someone must subconsciously accept your idea, he's simply describing resonance. What you project from pure love always finds its match. What you project from resistance finds its way back home to you to be healed, understood, and reimagined. Now here's the beautiful paradox. When you truly see another person as already changed, already healed, already radiant, you change yourself in the process. Why? Because your world, including other people, is you pushed out. You're rewriting your own reflection. It's never about making someone do something. It's always about seeing differently. Let's say you've had a fight with a friend. They're stubborn, cold, maybe cutting you off. The human reaction is to fix or explain. But the metaphysical approach Neville points to is inner. You sit quietly, close your eyes, and see them smiling at you again. Feel the warmth returned. Imagine a scene where everything is peaceful, where love flows naturally. You do not beg. You do not argue. You simply decide this is now your reality. That imaginal act sends a thought image, not words, but vibration into the shared field of consciousness. If it aligns with love, it reaches them. And sure enough, maybe a day or week later, something shifts. They message you. The tone changes. Circumstances rearrange. Was that a coincidence? According to Neville, and deeper still, according to your own patterns of experience, nothing is coincidence. You transmitted a change in consciousness and received evidence of it. What's intriguing is how this principle also explains why manipulation never truly works. People try to manifest others obsessively. I want them to beg for me, chase me, suffer. But that kind of thought, laced with need or dominance, has no true acceptance. It rebounds as pain, doubt, or delay. You get whatever energy you plant. That's why Neville's warning about malicious thought returning to you isn't a contradiction, it's karmic equilibrium. Consciousness self-balances. When you think of thought transmission this way, it's not scary, it's empowering. It means every interaction is energetic communication. Every assumption about others is a broadcast that loops back to you amplified. So what does this mean practically for manifestors like you and me? It means you have a choice in every moment to imagine others as obstacles or allies, to see them as limited by their past or free to shift now. And here's the secret. When you decide they can change, you invite your own transformation. We've all heard the phrase, change your assumptions and the world changes. But the law of thought transmission adds a deeper layer. It tells you why the world changes, because everyone is wired into one network of consciousness. Your imaginal act is like updating the code in that network. And once updated, everything, downstream outcomes, relationships, responses, starts to realign. Now let's talk about this idea of acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean conscious permission. You don't have to tell your friend, hey, I'm going to visualize you being confident. It's subconscious. Acceptance simply means that what you imagine for them must resonate with their inner potential, not violate it. You can't successfully imagine someone as hateful if their essence is kind. You might temporarily feel the emotion of that thought, but long-term, love always overrules distortion. In essence, this acceptance clause actually keeps manifestation rooted in ethics and harmony. You can only ever create from love, or you'll experience the imbalance within your own field. That's why Neville often returned to the Bible's line, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Not as moral instruction, but energetic law. Because what you hold for another is simultaneously being held for yourself. He illustrated this somewhere else through the idea that you are the operant power, meaning results depend on your state, your feeling of belief, not on them. The other person is indifferent, like a compass needle, waiting to align with the magnetic field you set. They don't decide consciously. Reality organizes itself through vibration. So if you're thinking, does that mean other people can also imagine me and change my life? Neville would say, yes, but only if you subconsciously accept that possibility. And if you're living from the awareness that you create your reality, you automatically stop receiving conflicting transmissions. It's like putting your radio on a higher frequency where static can't reach. Their beliefs about you become powerless unless you choose to resonate with them. Think of every person as an actor playing a role in your movie. When you change the script within you, their role adapts. But if they try to project their story onto you and it doesn't fit your new identity, it simply can't bind. Their signal doesn't pass through because you're broadcasting on a different wavelength. And that's where the chapter's beauty begins to unfold. The first read makes it sound like limits that your power is conditional. But look again. It's actually guidance toward integrity. It reminds you that to think of another lovingly is to think of yourself lovingly. And to imagine harm toward another is to invite it within your own field. Not punishment, reflection. Always reflection. It's similar to how a boomerang returns to the thrower. Thought doesn't travel linearly, it circulates. When you send something loving, it gathers momentum and circles back multiplied. When you send resentment, it does the same. The universe never plays favorites, it only echoes your frequency. So, if this is all true, then the way you view others becomes sacred. Every assumption about your partner, your parents, your colleagues, it's all shaping your own experiences of them. When you change, he never listens. to he's beginning to understand me. The shift begins first in your consciousness. They might not notice immediately, but the transmission has started. The energy begins to reorganize around your new narrative. You become the tuning fork that sets the tone of the room. The others simply vibrate accordingly. What makes this teaching so powerful for manifestors is its simplicity. You don't need a ritual. You don't need to text affirmations to the universe. You just need to decide who you are in relation to others and stay there. If you see yourself as loved, respected, and valued, that awareness transmits a new signal into the shared field. Everyone starts playing along. And yes, you can consciously use this. When you're visualizing your desires, imagine how others would feel about you in that ideal reality. How would your boss treat you once you've manifested abundance? How would your partner speak to you when you're fully loved and secure? Those mental pictures don't stay trapped in your head, they ripple outward. The moment you believe they see me as successful, thought transmission begins rewriting your shared script. Not because you controlled them, but because your assumption created a new energetic fact. Now, there's one more subtle truth here. You can't really transmit what you don't truly believe. Half-hearted imagination doesn't move the needle. If you still doubt your own power, the signal you send is fragmented. So before you try to recreate anyone else, recreate yourself. Become the person who believes in the power of their imagination. That conviction is the transmission. In a way, every successful manifestation we've ever had involved this. Maybe you wanted someone to notice you, and they did. Or you assumed the meeting would go well, and it did. That's thought transmission at play, your inner certainty bending the field around you. But what about that tricky part Neville mentions, when someone else imagines you? Does that mean you can be affected by their negative assumptions? Only if you agree subconsciously. If their image of you matches your fear, it merges easily. If not, it dissolves. Which is why self-concept is your greatest shield. Once you know who you are, no outer idea can override your identity. So in this grand conversation of minds, every thought is both broadcast and mirror. You send the signal and you also hear the echo. Maybe that's what Neville was really trying to communicate, that God is not just your consciousness alone, but a shared consciousness interacting with itself in infinite ways. You're not one isolated creator, you're an individualized node in the network of imagination. Every act of imagining affects the whole. Every assumption creates ripples far beyond what you can observe. And when you start living that way, aware that your private movie is everyone's hidden script, you become more deliberate, more compassionate, more powerful. You stop trying to force outer changes and start refining inner states, because you realize every argument, every rejection, every miracle is thought transmission, replaying your inner beliefs on the outer screen. The law of thought transmission isn't a limitation, it's a revelation. It tells you that love is the only real signal that always gets through. Everything else just bounces back, reminding you to tune in higher. And once you understand that, you stop asking whether your thoughts reach others. You know they do, because everything you see, hear, and experience is the broadcast of your own inner tone. Master that tone, and you master your world. I hope this video helped you in some way, and I will meet you with another video soon. Happy manifesting.